Okay, so in this video, we will be attempting to replicate something like this kind of hair highlights, this anime hair highlights. First we need to do a little analysis. So basically, as we can see, this is first of all, unlike normal metal or diffuse materials also, because it has a directional highlight property, because unlike metal, it does not have a single point where reflection, where the light is being reflected, but throughout the object at a specific condition, the highlights appear. So digging deep, we have this kind of example. As we know, anime is basically the simplification of real life elements. So as we can see, this kind of highlights and inspired this directional way of direction of the hair highlights, and the fact that highlights are not the highlight is not a continuous line of bright light, but instead it is several clumps of highlights along a specific direction and at a specific length. So in Blender, there is a simple solution, which is using the anisotropy parameter of the principal BSDF in the cycles render engine. But as we know, we need a real-time render, so we cannot use it. But still, we need to know how it works in the Blender environment. So how it works is, you first ramp up the value of this anisotropy. You can see the effect appears, and the one crucial part of this setup is this tangent node. The effect also works even without a node being connected, but when the node is not connected, the principal BSDF shader uses the default tangent parameter, which is radial z direction. By plugging the tangent to the principal BSDF's tangent input, we can manipulate that direction. This should appear somewhere around this, but it is in the shadow, so we cannot see it. Similarly, in Z, X, and Y, and Z. Also, there is a UV map parameter. It works in a similar way. UV mapping is as since on moving this a bit, you will notice that the shading also moves, because the z axis which it is using is a global z axis and not the object z axis. So the alternative to this is using the UV map, as I showed you here. You can see this is more convenient. So first of all, I will show you that it does not work in EEVEE. You can see it does not work at all. If I switch to Z also, radial Z, it does not work. Instead, it gives this ugly stripe type of pattern. So we cannot use the principal BSDF's anisotropy for our cause. But we have to use this tangent because this is the node which specify the direction of the anisotropy effect. So after many hours of fiddling here and there, I found this two combination. Plugging the tangent through a layer weight or Fresnel node, we get this kind of result. This is currently not working on the cylinder because this part is not properly UV'd, but still you can see this this kind of effect is what we wanted earlier. It is what we are going with. If In this tutorial I will be using a curve hair method for the demonstration, but it will work, but the setup will work regardless if the UV mapping is done correctly. You can see that the UV map is set blank because in curve objects there is no at least I can't find a place where we can select or manipulate the UV mapping. It has a default UV mapping set to it. To prove that, I will show you this. This is the UV mapping, default UV mapping done to all the curve objects by default. So it is a time saver for us. And you can see it gives us this bit effect, kind of a which is very useful for us now. But as you can see, it gives a continuous band of light highlight, which was kind of uh, basis. It was the basis of the highlight, but not accurate. Break it up to make smaller clumps of hair highlights. So what we do is we mix it with a noise texture. We get this kind of effect where it mixes with the noise. And one thing is very important, that you use the UV coordinates, because the UV coordinate makes the noise texture stretch, which is what it gives the hair strandy look to it. Then after the mix node, we just pass it through a color ramp, which gives us this effect, which was what we wanted earlier. And to increase the number of strand which appears, which seem that are in the highlight, you can ramp up the scale. And also, uh, if you look carefully, means that the curves are side by side, you will notice that the pattern is exactly the same. To make each strand a little different, we have to play with the W parameter, but that W parameter should be different for each strand. So what we need to do is pass it through a generated or object coordinate, and use the Z or any if we pass it through if we use another noise texture, use generated coordinate, and then use the factor with this, that works also. Actually, this is what I did for making this node setup. I will be going over that just after mm, yeah. So what I did here is I passed a generate coordinate, split it in three, then passed it through the this through mapping and fed it to the noise texture, and passed the Z coordinate for the W parameter, which makes each strand unique. So if you look at this, you will see this is what we got. It looks very similar to what we wanted. Uh, mm, we wanted a gradient piece of anisotropic highlight on the hair, which has smaller clumps, and this is how it looks. The download link to this shader will be in the description. uh, First half of the shader is the same as the original anime shader, but I've updated the anime shader to accommodate two more parameters, which is the subsurface scattering color and the ambient color. The ambient color is the color which will be given to the shadows when the custom colors is not being used. And similarly, the SSS color is the color which affects the skin color for when for the skin when it is in the shadow. uh, and the last three 4 to 5 parameters are dedicated for the highlight threshold. This controls the amount, the limit of the highlights. Scale gives the number of strands that appears. Strength, if we are not using the, it gives the strength reflective color. uh, yeah, the emission strength of the highlight. It gives basically that is what this emission highlight strength is. And finally, the custom color highlight factor. It if you plug one to this, you can plug a specific value of color which you want. Custom color highlight. The links to this will be in the description. And now I will show you how it works with a anime model. Yeah, so I did minor changes to the face and it looks a bit more anime-ish. As you can see, more like Kyoani anime. Uh, anatomically correct lips and nose. The contours is also better. Oh, and so on. This is how the highlights will look. The highlights are dynamic because it's based on the anisotropic effect. You can also use the UV coordinate and put some filters to make it static highlights. But for now, I will be using this dynamic highlight for now. Yes. Okay, so this concludes the aim of this video. In the next video, I'm thinking of making a reflective shader, means this gloss, the brush type of gloss shader, because not using metal does not using metal shader didn't give me the result I needed. So this is a custom setup to give me this result. I think we will be needing one or two more shader groups at max. First, this reflective shine shader, and another maybe a metal shader. Metal, I don't know if we will be needing or not. If we will need, we will use that. So only the future will tell. So this was it for this video. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more upcoming videos. Follow me on my socials, Twitter, Instagram, and join my Discord server. The links to that will be in the description. If you are feeling generous today, you can become my Patreon. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.